Today I'm talking about aperture. So aperture basically is the amount of light that comes through the hole in the camera, basically, if you think of it like that. So when you are thinking about selecting an aperture, I always think the best way of thinking about it is to think about the effect that you want to achieve first and work backwards from there. So for portraits and for like beautiful details in the landscape where you want that lovely blurry out of focus background, you want to be thinking, what aperture do I need to achieve that? So when thinking about what aperture to use, always think about the purpose of the image. So for portraits, I always use f2.8 for portraiture and wedding photography because it gives you that lovely shallow depth of field and you've got a really professional look. So with portraits, anything that you want that dreamy look, you're thinking 2.8 or as low as your lens will go. So for instance, my lens only goes to f4. This is how you adjust aperture on a Fuji camera, which is slightly different to some other systems. You might have the aperture here. So if you are thinking of a landscape image, for instance, where you want everything sharp and everything in focus, you want to be going on a higher number. I always just say a higher number because basically in aperture, the lower the number, f2.8, it is very confusing. That is actually a larger aperture. So that kind of confuses people a lot. So I think it's best to avoid calling it larger aperture. Just say lower number and higher number. So lower number, 2.8, it's got a very narrow field of focus. So everything behind it will be out of focus. 22, for instance, goes the opposite way. Everything's in focus. You want to be looking, if you're doing landscape photography, you really want to be shooting around about f16, f22 isn't the best aperture to shoot at anyway. It's optimal about f11 to f16 for landscape work, and that'll everything in focus nicely. So I'm going to show you some examples of different apertures and how using these apertures really give you that different effect.